Hello and welcome to episode 27 of Your Average Critics. Just two manning it today. It's me and Obi.
Yo,
How you doing, Obi?
I'm alright, mate. I'm alright. How are you?
Yeah, I'm back to happier ways after a 3-0 victory yesterday.
Yeah, man. This isn't the football podcast.
I know.
Check out Sunday League Pedigree if you're listening to this.
Yeah, it's one we also do with a few other mates who have some knowledge of football. But this is about film. We have about as much film pedigree as we do football pedigree.
Yeah,
But we haven't talked about some film news in a while. You were telling me something just before the podcast about a new kind of X-Men related film.
Yeah, so I think they're doing a film called X-Force, and Deadpool's apparently going to star in it. So I think in Deadpool 1, I think it was called Cable, and the other girl, I can't remember what.
Oh, so the big giant guy was
Big
Colossus,
Colossus,
and
sorry.
she was like
Yeah.
teenage Negasonic
Yeah,
nuke
so I
face
think
or something.
they're part of the X-Force.
Okay,
So I don't really know what the X-Force is. I think it's just like a secondary X-Men, basically.
okay. Is it like a Suicide Squad of X-Men
Probably. I don't really know.
or an
to be
Avengers?
honest. I don't really know. But yeah, they said that Deadpool's going to be in that. So he'll be in that. He'll be in Deadpool 2. He'll be in that in Deadpool 1. I don't know if he's planning to put him on any of the new X-Men films or not. Because they're saying it's going to be set in the 90s, isn't it? The next X-Men film. So he probably won't be.
Yeah, and that's actually having the whole kind of cast return, which surprised me because I thought after Apocalypse, people like James McAvoy, Fassbender, and Jennifer Lawrence would be like, "No, fuck this."
Yeah, I thought because I heard that Jennifer Lawrence was like, I can't bother to be in Mystique anymore. Because apparently she hates doing all the makeup and that for the.
It must take
thing, yeah.
ages.
So apparently she hates it. So I thought she was going to be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
But I suppose-
They probably got a huge paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
So if Deadpool's going to be in the X-Force, do you say Cable's going to be in it?
I think so, yeah.
So does that? I assume that means Cable survives Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
I don't know if Cable's an adversary or
I don't really know.
a friend.
The whole X-Men universe is so confusing.
It's getting convoluted because aren't they doing New Mutants, which is like I don't know what they are, young, like
Yeah, is that a film? Or is it going to be a TV show?
I don't know, man.
No, I don't know. I don't know either. I'm not going to I really don't know. I know it's hard to keep up with all the stuff they're coming out with. 'Cause obviously, you've got all the films and that, and then they've got Legion, which I think is part of the same universe, but I'm not sure. And then you've got The Gifted, which I'm pretty sure is part of the same universe as well. So like, they're just bringing out loads of stuff now. And I don't know, we talked about this a while ago, but it's all become so saturated. Cause I can't keep up with all this stuff, man.
Do you mean superhero?
Superhero stuff like this. So because obviously we're at a point now where everyone's just like loving it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then I think we'll get to a point now where they're just like they're bringing out so much stuff. We're just like, I can't watch all of this. I'm just gonna get bored.
I actually can't. So I haven't seen The Defenders yet. I haven't seen Iron Fist, but I'm probably not gonna. I haven't had a chance to watch Inhumans, even though so it wasn't great. Legion, but it is just there's so much stuff there, and I know we talked about it before. So many different networks or different streaming services. It's like it's just Marvel needs to release one like DC. Just have all of their stuff in one place because I can't keep up with it. And to be honest, I'm getting less and less interested in it.
Me too.
We're big kind of fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I do worry that once they get rid of what's his name, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans,
the cool guys basically.
Like that, it's just gonna dwindle.
Yeah, I think because when you get rid of them, you got to get people who are able to carry their roles as well, if not better. And when people say to me, "Oh yeah, they're going to get rid of Robert Downey Jr. and then Doctor Strange is going to be the new leader of the
The Avengers.
Then like that just doesn't work. Doctor Strange is decent, but he's
he's not charismatic enough.
No, exactly. But you think like I could tell. I don't know if maybe this was like a foreshadowing sort of thing, but when I was watching Doctor Strange, I was thinking like he's very Tony Stark like,
right?
But he's not the same.
Like arrogant.
Yeah, exactly. Arrogant, sarcastic, that sort of thing.
I just don't feel like Benedict Cumberbatch is the right actor to fulfill that characteristic. Like I can see him as Doctor Strange, like as a surgeon, but as an arrogant twat, nah, not based on his previous kind of resume. So yeah, I don't know, and I feel like
I suppose to be fair, you could say like if still there? You could say like what's his name? Chris Evans. Obviously, when he was in Fantastic Four, he was like an arrogant so and so, whatever.
True.
And then he comes back in Captain America, he's like complete opposite, like most humble, like guy and stuff like that.
That's true.
So I suppose if you can give him a chance, then you can give Benedict Cumberbatch a chance in whatever film he's going to be in next. I don't know what film it's going to be.
Infinity War. Oh no, he's in Ragnarok.
I was going to say, I think he's in Ragnarok.
I'm actually excited for that film.
I really want to watch that film. I think it'll be really good. I like Chris Hemsworth. I think he's just like a good character.
Yeah, I like the direction they're going in with this. Like the director's pretty hip and funky, and you know, it looks very kind of psychedelic.
That's the exact right word. Yeah, I think it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
I'm worried though that they're going like that they've kind of introduced this cosmic realm, or more like sci-fi based, outer space based narratives, and that they're just going to run with that, and then they're going to lose sight of the grounded kind of quote unquote real world that they established for the first 10, 12 films, and that's what I quite like about these superhero films. What I like about Batman is like you can see elements of realism in it. You can not relate to it, but you're like it's recognizable. Whereas Guardians of the Galaxy is fun, but if the rest of the MCU is just moving towards big space battles, it's kind of turning into Star Wars, and I like Star Wars, but there's only so many different franchises of spaceships shooting lasers at each other that and you'll be like
I think the only one at the minute out of all of them that I think is likely to stay grounded is Spider-Man. Really
true.
Like the rest of them, like obviously I think Iron Man's pretty much like coming to an end. I don't think they're not bringing out any other Iron Man films, are they?
No, he's in Infinity War, and we assume he's going to be in whatever they call the sequel to that.
So then I think after that he's done. After that Captain America's done. So they're going to have to bring out something better. I mean, I think they're going to do a new Captain America, but they're going to have Falcon as Captain America. Because I think Falcon does take over the role in the comics.
Okay.
So I think they're going to do that maybe. And I reckon you'll probably bomb.
Yeah.
Even I like what's his name?
Anthony Mackie.
That's the one. I like him. I think he's decent, but I'm not sure if he can carry a film.
Yeah, me neither. I think he's pretty much supported. There are some actors that are just born to be supporting actors. Do you know what I mean?
Like Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Jeremy Renner, I think he's not really.
Although, I mean,
he did alright in
Wind River. Okay, we'll come back to Marvel. Let's talk about Wind River, which is actually features Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch, Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen. So, what's Wind River about? Do you remember?
Wind River. Oh God, how many weeks ago was it now?
3 weeks.
Wind River is about a Native American girl who is murdered, and then.
We're doing the podcast in my house for the first time, and there's a reason why we haven't done it before. It's because there's so many fucking noises in my house.
That's the first time we saw.
If it's not the clock, which it dings, why is it still dinging? Like the dog will be scratching. Oh, it's ridiculous. Anyway,
Wind River is about a Native American woman or young woman who is murdered, and the FBI come to investigate the murder, and she has to have the FBI woman is Elizabeth Olsen. Elizabeth Olsen?
Yeah.
And then she has to get the help of, because she doesn't know anything, because it's like where is it? In Wyoming?
I think it is Wyoming, yeah.
And it's like all like snowy and stuff. So she doesn't really know how to get about and stuff like that. So she has to enlist the help of Jeremy Renner, who is a tracker. I think he tracks animals.
He's part of like the fishing and wildlife division of the council or something.
Yeah, so then he uses his tracking skills to find out who murdered the girl.
Okay. And what did you think of the film?
I just thought it was pretty good. When I was watching the trailer before the film, because I was thinking, it looks like kind of like mediocre sort of thing. But then when I watched it at the end, I was kind of this is pretty decent. But like, I'm trying to. I think there was a thought I had at the end of the film, and I can't remember it was quite poignant. I can't remember. I can't remember what it was now, which is a shame. I should have written it down. But yeah, I thought it was actually right. Solid 7, I would say.
Yeah, I watched the trailer before another film, which I can't remember what it was. This is because we saw this as part of a screen unseen, so we didn't know we were going to see Wind River. And when I saw the trailer, I thought this kind of looks like a direct-to-DVD movie. But I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't really know what it was about, but yeah, I mean, Jeremy Renner does a decent job as a leading man, and I thought, quite a decent cast as well. Elizabeth Olsen, but John Bernthal has a cameo as the boyfriend of the Native American girl. Although,
sorry, no, go ahead.
No,
sorry.
Go on.
So
tell us your poignant.
This. Now that I think about it, it's not very poignant. But so like, at the end of the film, I know I'm skipping, but right at the end of the film, they did this like subtitles thing about all the statistics about Native American who go missing and stuff like that, and then. So then at the end of the film, you kind of realize, this is about that. But when as I was watching it, I wasn't thinking like that it was about what they were trying to make out the way it was about. So if that makes sense.
So the story is the Native American girl's dead, and the Native American their land. What do they call it? Territory. The territory police are looking for them, and then they get a little bit of help from kind of more broadly American FBI and Jeremy Renner. And then, so as Obi's referring to, at the end it says, every year thousands of Native Americans go missing, but there are no statistics for them, whereas there are statistics for every other demographic in America. So this film, at the end you realise that it's kind of social commentary, but it's not forceful. It's not shoving it down your throat. It's actually quite subtle when you think back on it, because there's not a whole, I think that relates to my hot take of it was a good film, but it kind of didn't feel that dramatic. Like it was quite slow paced, and then it wrapped up quite quickly. It wasn't a particularly long film from what I remember, and that kind of didn't sit well with me because I was thinking, it's not your typical whodunit murder mystery sort of thing, and then. Upon seeing those kind of closing titles, it kind of made sense. It's like, there's no big hullabaloo. There's no big investigation really about into this girl. It's just like, she's dead. Like, oh well. And Elizabeth Olsen initially wants to just pass it off as a homicide quite quickly. So I guess it's important that.
To be fair though, she wanted to investigate it, and then the medical examiner was like, I can't rule it as a homicide because... Oh no, did you say I can't rule it as a rape? Something like one of those two. He said I can't rule it as such and such after, because he was going through the body, innit? Yeah. And there was something, I can't remember why he couldn't, but she was like kind of like forcing him, saying like, we have to say it's a homicide so we can investigate. But
it's some sort of jurisdiction, wasn't it?
And he was like, I can't do it until someone that the FBI comes and does something or other. I don't know. Something like that. But yeah.
It's decent. Now, you don't get to see stories about Native Americans much. It's quite important.
Not live action ones, anyway.
No, exactly. And even though I don't think the director is Native American.
In fairness, though, I mean, I know it was about a Native American girl, but like the lead wasn't Native American.
True.
The supporting character wasn't Native American.
True.
I think the police was the policeman Native American.
The cop.
Yeah, I think he was Native American. Fair enough. And then obviously the parents were.
Yeah.
And his ex-wife was, which is fair enough. But it would have been nice if like one of the one of the main characters was Native American.
That's true.
Kind of like push the point home. But I suppose it's subtle, like you said. So.
No, I did enjoy it. That's the thing. I think we're conditioned now to just it has to be action, like action. And if it's not, then we kind of feel a bit disappointed. Which is why, upon reflection, I probably would rate it higher than what I would have initially coming out, because I would have been like, where's the shooting? And it wasn't particularly. There wasn't much suspense in terms of who it was. It was kind of like it was quite easy. We were just following, a really linear way through the narrative. I guess if it was a book or a kind of a more blockbustery Hollywood film, then you'd have red herrings and you go off on different tangents and different suspects. But it's pretty much there's only ever really one suspect, and then you saw the flashback of how it happened, and then he was kind of got his comeuppance, and that was pretty much it. But yeah, it was good upon reflection. I wasn't convinced by Elizabeth Olsen's character.
I feel like there wasn't too much chemistry between them
that's
two.
it.
And I think what they were going for was kind of like there's a subtle attraction between the two of them, but I wasn't really buying it.
No. And it's weird considering they have worked on the Avengers together. Yes. So that is directed by someone called Taylor Sheridan. And you're a fan of one of his other films, whether you know it or not, Hell or High Water. And he also wrote and directed a film called Sicario. Sorry, he wrote it, not directed it. So this Wind River is technically a trilogy within those. I think it's something about kind of less kind of marginalized marginalized American kind of populations and crime and death within those areas, which kind of got me thinking. I mean, I've seen Sicario; it was pretty good. Wind River was decent. They're probably 6.5 and 7. What would you give Hell or High Water?
I would say 7.5, maybe an 8.
Okay, so that's averaging about a 7 for each film in this trilogy. So it's got me thinking, like, what are the best trilogies like that you've seen? All 3 films,
and it's just 3 films. like it can't be like Harry Potter. It's just got to be like 3 films.
Yeah, we'll go with just 3 films because I think if you give it a whole film series, then you're kind of, where do you stop it? It's like MCU. That's a thing. You got.
Oh, but can I say?
You can say Captain America.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Quite liked the Men in Black trilogy.
Okay.
I thought the first one was really good. The second one was okay, and the third one was really good.
I haven't seen the third one.
Maybe not. I think it's quite good. So I think that averages out as to be pretty decent. Also, I like pretty much like any film that Will Smith's in. So
true.
That was pretty good.
What made that kind of the thing that popped into your mind instantly? What was it about Men in Black? Is it the comedy? Is it the chemistry between Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith? Nostalgia?
Probably a bit of nostalgia, because it's probably like one of the earliest films I can remember like watching.
Yeah.
And actually like remembering it. And then I think the comedy as well, just because I think because the two of them did have such good chemistry, because they were like kind of like opposites, but like one's old and serious, and one's young and it's like like young and like a Joker sort of type. So I think they worked quite well together, and I think that like when they did mix that in with all like the action sci-fi stuff, I think it all did work quite well, because sometimes you watch a film and like they try to be really funny, and it's like it doesn't really, and they try to put loads of action in it, and it doesn't really, the balance doesn't really come off quite well. But I think Men in Black did it quite well.
Does it stand the test of time? Have you revisited it recently?
I've watched the third one twice, but I've watched the first one countless times, but not for years. I haven't watched the first one probably a good 10 years since I watched the first one.
Okay.
But I've watched the third one a couple of times. I've only watched the second one like once, maybe twice. But I probably watched the first one a good 5-6 times. So yeah, decent. What are you? I can't really think of.
First one that comes into my head is the Planet of the Apes trilogy.
Oh, good shout.
The new one. So, I mean, I'd probably give Rise an 8.5.
Yeah.
Dawn, I've only seen it once, and probably give that, from what I remember, a 7.
Yeah.
And then War for the Planet of the Apes, 8.5, 9. So, I mean, that is kind of across the board a very kind of consistently solid, strong, and the animation, well, the CGI, I should say, just gets better. So normally, like with trilogies, they kind of tail off, but yeah, this was strong.
Really strong ending, or assuming ending, anyways. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good shout. I really like that.
And I think that's based again on the technology developments, but also the fact that the actual character development of Caesar is really strong. Like, considering he is a motion captured gorilla, he doesn't really speak much. The kind of 3 individual parts of the trilogy are quite different. The first one is more of like not science fiction, but it's about James Franco's character finding a cure for Alzheimer's. I think it's Alzheimer's, and then the second one's more of like the early parts of a war, but more of an action film. Then the third one is all out war. And while Caesar is the thread throughout them, like he doesn't really become the main focus until the third film, because obviously James Franco's characters, the first one, second one, you've got a lot of the other human characters that are quite equally focused. I think there's a family, isn't there? Part of that.
The second one.
Yeah, there's like a boy, mother, and father, from what I remember. So it's not until the third one that you really see Caesar as the actual point of view character. Yeah, proper solid, all enjoyable.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good shout. Dark Knight.
You see,
I know, I probably know what you're going to say. Before you even say it, I agree with you. I'm just going to guess what you're going to say. What's it called?
The trilogy is elevated only because of the Dark Knight.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, the middle one, I can't remember what it's called. It's just called Dark Knight.
Yeah, so you've got Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, so Dark Knight is really, really good, and then the other two are okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've rewatched Batman Begins a couple of times.
I actually,
and it's not. I didn't like it.
Yeah, do you know what? I said it was okay. Do you know what? I'm going to take it back. It's average.
Yeah, I'd say it's
average.
6 at a push.
Yeah. It's kind of boring.
It is, because I probably made the mistake of I watched The Dark Knight, and then I realised it was the second Batman film. So then I went and watched Batman Begins. I was like, this is bad. It's just not the levels of action and scale of The Dark Knight. And then The Dark Knight Rises, it was good. I mean, it's better than Batman Begins, but I don't know. I know obviously circumstance said differently, but you kind of wanted to see more of Batman and the Joker. And then I kind of feel like The Dark Knight Rises was kind of not an afterthought, but it was kind of like, how are we going to wrap this up? Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Dark Knight Rises wasn't great. It really wasn't great.
And
Bane was good.
Yeah, but you don't really understand him.
No, I suppose.
And then also that kind of subplot with Robin, that kind of
pissed me off, man.
It kind of felt like they were setting it up for more.
Exactly.
I kind of felt like they probably could have stopped it after The Dark Knight. And they decided not to carry it on. Okay, cool. But then want to see what happens to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. Yeah. Why would you reveal that he's called Robin if you're not going to continue?
Yeah, that annoyed me so much. I was actually like, what is the point?
Although it would be good, and I know it's not going to happen, if Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in the DC Extended Universe as Dick Tracy, or whatever his name was. Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson. There's how much I know about DC.
Sorry, I'm just looking at film trees because my mom.
Toy Story?
Literally, I was just about to say Toy Story. But Toy Story is another one, I think. The first one's really good.
Yeah.
The third one's really good.
Yeah.
The second one's okay.
Yeah.
I thought the third one. Do you know what? I didn't think I'd ever get so emotional over some like fictional toys.
Yeah.
And the third one, when they're about to go into the what's it called? The burning thing. I don't know what it's called.
Incinerator,
thank you. And they're like all holding hands and like they're like, oh,
so many feels, man.
Like, oh, this is it. I was like, oh my god. I was literally like, I think I watched it at uni and I was like, oh my god, this is so emotional. And then to find out I'm really glad that they're making another one.
Yeah.
Because it ended like I feel like that was just such a good way to end.
Yeah. The thing is, there was so many kind of rumours of a Toy Story 3 and people were like, do they need one? Is there going to be appetite for it? Because obviously it was so long after the first two. And then it was such a success. And you're like, okay, please just leave it at that. And obviously now they're making another one, but I don't know where they're going to go with it. I mean, I'll probably watch it, but...
Yeah, I'll watch it. But...
It's kind of like that Indiana Jones. Like, the first 3 are considered, very good films, and I haven't seen all of them.
I don't like Indiana Jones.
But then apparently the fourth one's terrible and just kind of ruins the memory of the last one.
Yeah.
What other trilogies on that list?
So they've got Pirates of the Caribbean. There's like 5 of them, so it doesn't really count. No. They've got Iron Man.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the trilogies within...
Captain America is the best trilogy. I'm just saying.
Actually, to be fair, it's only 2 trilogies, aren't there?
Yes, and
so far.
And Thor's coming. But like, obviously, you can say that you don't like the first one, which I know you don't, which is fair enough. Because it's like a bit more like that one. But I think the second and third one are pretty
Yeah, that
Pretty
trilogy gets better.
Yeah.
So the first one I don't particularly like. Second one's good. Third one's brilliant.
Really good. Yeah.
I would say on reflection it's better than the Iron Man trilogy because Iron Man 1's really good. Iron Man 2's shit and Iron Man 3's alright.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I would comfortably say that unless Ragnarok is an 11 out of 10, that 4 would be the worst trilogy.
That's fair, but even I think it's okay. I think it's okay.
Thor
It's not awful.
Right. Thor 2's
I think
really
I think Thor 1's really good actually, but yeah, Thor 2's not great.
And then you could say the Guardians of the Galaxy would be probably a strong.
These are all like science fiction.
What about the original? Well, we say original. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man films.
To be fair, it's a decent shout. I think the first one's very good. The second one's very good. I really can't remember the third one. I don't think I watched the third one in the cinema. I think that's why I can't really remember it. So I would need to watch that one again before I make my judgment. But what do you think?
Well, see, I have only seen each of them once when they came out.
Yeah.
So this is based on what I can remember. That I really like the first one. I don't remember liking the second one.
Right.
And I remember really liking the third one, which makes me at odds with pretty much everybody else. So I'm wondering if I've got them confused in my mind.
The second one's where
Doc Ock.
Yeah.
I don't remember enjoying it that much. But I might need to rewatch them.
That one's good, man.
But then I'm worried about rewatching them.
You should watch that again. That one's good.
I'm gonna have to.
How many films was Terminator?
Oh, there's like
Apart
5
from,
now.
apart from the Genesis one.
Yeah.
That was kind of rubbish. That was actually really rubbish. That was actually really quite rubbish.
I haven't seen it, man.
I mean, no, considering it was supposed to be like a big blockbuster remake. Schwarzenegger's coming back and Emilia Clarke is in it, and I was thinking, oh, this is gonna be sick, and it was dead, man. The first one, it's basically a reboot. The first one.
Okay.
Yeah, and the first one is 10 times better.
What about the Star Wars trilogies?
I've only seen one. Well, apart from Rogue One, I've only seen one Star Wars film, so I wouldn't be the best person to talk about that with.
I mean, it's kind of well known that the original Star Wars trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, is infinitely better than the modern trilogy of 1, 2, and 3. It'd be interesting to see where 7, 8, and 9 go. 7 is basically just 4, but updated for modern times.
Yeah, that's what Chris said. I still haven't watched that. I might watch it just because I'll probably because we've got the thing in it in the past. I'll probably watch the new ones coming out. So
that's true.
So I suppose I should watch the one before, innit? I should probably watch all of them, but I just CBA, man. It's like that's 7 films, man. And I watched Rogue One and it was okay. Yeah,
Rogue One was alright. Obviously, people say Godfather trilogy, but I haven't seen the third one.
I literally just can't. Yeah, I've seen about 15 minutes of the first one. And I was like, this is kind of heavy, so I just turned it off.
I found it really overrated. Original X-Men trilogy?
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't really have it up there. I really like the X-Men films, actually, but they're not great. I just think I like them because I like X-Men. But they're not fantastic.
Does that go with the new modern, the modern trilogy as well? First Class, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse is terrible, but
I think I do prefer the first 3 to
the
modern
3.
I remember people were like, I think it was First Class. I don't know, First Class is like the best X-Men film was come out. And I was like, First Class was pretty good, but I think I preferred X-Men 1 and even X-Men 2.
Okay, I remember when I first watched First Class, I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's still good, but upon rewatches, I think Days of Future Past might be better. Which makes me think, actually, in Days of Future Past, they saw Jean Grey, but then now Sophie Turner's playing Jean Grey, right? In Dark Phoenix and Apocalypse. That timeline is so messed up, man.
I think something like when Days of Future Past one where Wolverine goes back in time, right?
Yeah.
So I think when he comes back, he's completely altered the timeline or something.
But the first X-Men film came out in 2000.
Yeah.
So if Dark Phoenix is set in the 90s, like to go from Sophie Turner to Famke Janssen in the first film, like even if this one's set in 1990 and X-Men is set in 2000, 10 years. There's more than 10 years between them.
Well,
I don't know. I'm sure it's not leading right up into the new X-Men film, but yeah, they've really messed that up.
Is it bad that we can't really think of any ones that aren't sci-fi? Or, that sort of genre? Are there any, really?
There must be.
That you can think of. That basically, aren't, action films.
Well, I saw a film the other day called 21 Grams, which is a Alejandro... I can't pronounce the rest of his name. Gonzalez Iñárritu. He did The Revenant and Birdman. And that's part of another kind of loose thematic trilogy of Amoros Perros and Babel. And I've only seen 21 Grams and Babel. But that's about death and how it brings people together or tears people apart sort of thing. And they're both solid films. And they're very kind of pessimistic, so it's all about people with so 21 Grams is about this guy. So it's 3 kind of separate stories that end up interconnecting, and so it's Naomi Watts is a mother whose children get killed children and husband get killed in a car accident. There's Benicio del Toro, who's a ex-con who's trying to rebuild his life. He's kind of found Jesus, and he is driving the car who kills Naomi Watts' children, and then but it's an accident and he's not drunk or anything. And then there's Sean Penn, who plays a guy with a heart defect, and his wife is struggling to get pregnant, and he kind of offers to donate sperm so that she can have IVF after he dies. But then, because Naomi Watts' husband gets killed, their heart is a match. So Sean Penn gets Naomi Watts' husband's heart in a transplant, and then tracks down Naomi Watts to kind of, he wants to kind of thank the family. Then they end up falling in love and shagging a bit. And then, because he has the guy's heart, he wants to kill Benicio del Toro for killing her family, which is kind of ironic, because if he hadn't killed her family, then he would never have got the heart. Exactly. And then he leaves his wife.
Great.
So yeah, all those are connected, but...
His wife who wanted to have kids?
Yeah.
That's so big.
Because he finds out that she's had an abortion with his kid before or something.
How long is this film?
2 and a bit hours. But it's a good film. Yeah. It's quite sad, quite downbeat, because Sean Penn ends up dying. So he tells Naomi Watts that he's killed Benicio del Toro, but he lets him live. And then Benicio del Toro comes back and says, look, you need to kill me, because he says, look, I've failed God and everything. Well, he wants to die. And then Naomi Watts is like, all right, cool, I'll kill you. And then Sean Penn's saying, no, please don't kill him. And then ends up...
I thought Sean Penn was dead.
Well, this is before he dies. And then he ends up shooting himself because he wants them to stop fighting. And then he ends up dying. And then...
What? Why did... What?
I can't really remember, but...
Why did he shoot himself?
I think he...
Where did he shoot himself?
In the heart.
Why? Sorry, I don't know.
I think... Do you know what? I can't quite remember. But he did shoot himself in the heart.
This sounds mad.
But also, I mean, it's a good film, but also, the way the film is edited is that it's not linear. Okay. So the first image you see is Sean Penn and Naomi Watts in bed together, and then it flashes, well, I say flashes back, just jumps around, between, you see parts of the end, you see parts of the beginning, and Sean Penn ends up dying. But yeah, it's quite a downbeat film. And then Babel's pretty similar. It's got Brad Pitt. I think he's somewhere in the Middle East, and I think something about his wife dies, and lots of sadness, man. But those two are good.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Amoros Perros yet, but yeah.
Fair play. I know you said Lord of the Rings as well, but obviously I haven't watched the first one.
Well, we need Ollie here to talk about
that. It's good he's not here, to be
honest. I don't want to hear about that shit. Obviously, Human Centipede, like one of the strongest trilogies.
Goal.
Joe, I never saw Goal 3, but Goal 1
the first two were out.
Yeah, solid. I'm just having a look at the DVD collection up here. There's anything
there was... No, I can't remember. No, I can't remember.
Alright. So we both seen Logan Lucky.
Mhm.
Did we talk about it last week?
We know I talked about it a little bit.
Okay, I just want to say that I found it really, really boring.
Fair enough. That's fair. That's fair. I thought it was okay, but when I was watching it, I was kind of like, he was kind of like, so I can say this now. So like, he was like, what's the guy's name?
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, that's the one. So he was like, his ex-wife was like, oh yeah, I'm moving away. So he was like, okay, I'm gonna rank them.
Yeah.
I was just like, what? That's like, I feel like that's not reason enough to, not rob a bank, but rob whatever he robbed. I feel like that's not reason enough for you to start this film.
No, it really was a loose way of. It was just he had like a fucking checklist of how to rob a bank, and so he loses his job. It's not like I'll find another one.
Yeah.
You know, fair enough if he tried loads of places and the only thing it could turn to was crime. Like, okay, you could probably understand that at a stretch, but it's like gets fired. Right, I'm gonna rob a bank.
Yeah,
Or sort of NASCAR thing.
His brother works at a bar. I'm sure his brother could just get him a job at the bar.
Yeah, and also, how does his brother get his job back at the bar after being in prison for like 3 months?
Who knows?
But yeah, it wasn't funny. The only funny thing was the thing about Game of Thrones, where they're like, we've been in here like 5 years, how has there not been another book? I was like, exactly. So George R. R. Martin, we know you're listening because you listen to this whilst you write. Fucking hurry up, man. And yeah, I just kind of felt like, again, sort of with Winref, it was just too easy. Like there was no like hiccup at all. Like everything ran smoothly pretty much. And I was just like, well, a lot of the kind of fun of watching films is, even though you probably know everything's going to be all right in the end, is how they overcome kind of hurdles. And it was just like, there was no police trying to find them whilst they were committing this crime. There wasn't really much of the police afterwards. Like, you see Hilary Swank kind of wander around a bit and go like, oh, guess
Do you think it's going to be a sequel because the way they ended it? With her, like, in the bar, undercover, or whatever it was.
I hope not. I kind of felt that was a bit pointless as well.
I think, I don't really get it. I don't really understand. Quick question, sorry. Have you ever seen film Takers? Or Taken? Don't Takers.
That's a trilogy. Taken.
No, yeah. To be fair, I've only seen the first one.
Yeah.
But,
anyway, Takers.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. It's about bank robbery. It's got Idris Elba and it's got T.I. in it. And it's quite funny.
Is it a comedy?
No.
Okay.
It's just like the things that happen are funny. Like, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think about Logan Lucky, but Chris Brown did it as well.
Chris Brown
did it, yeah. And he's like, he's an idiot. Yeah. He basically shoots policemen whilst they're doing a job, yeah. And then they're obviously all like, right, you shot a policeman, so basically, if we know their way now, you'll get him death penalty. So he's like panicking. And he's like running away from these police while they're chasing him. And he's basically like breakdancing as he's running away from the police. He's kind of like doing loads of backwards and stuff and doing like parkour and stuff like that. I thought about it just now, it made me laugh. Yeah, it's about a bank thing. And as you can guess, T.I.'s the bad guy.
Right.
Well, no, he's a good guy, but he goes to prison because this could have been from the archive. But he goes to prison.
It could have been actually.
He goes to prison before the film starts.
Right.
And they were like, Idris Elba's in it as well. I don't know if I said that. But he was like, yeah, we will set aside some money for you to do your thing there. But he's kind of like, I went down for all of you lot and you've all been doing jobs without me, like earning loads of money, and I haven't got my fair share. So they've only given him a share from the job that they did that he got caught on.
Okay.
So they've been doing loads of jobs since that, and he hasn't been getting any of that money. And his ex-girlfriend is now with another member who's on the crew, played by Michael Ealy, who's in some stuff. I can't think of the stuff right now. But so then, I think his name's Ghosted actually. But T.I.'s character's name's Ghosted. Could
have been a segue into Power.
It could have been. But so yeah, so basically, he basically just sabotaged. They're like, okay, you know, the things like they just do a job, like, oh, okay, one more job, and it's
the last sort of thing. I hate that plot device.
So they do that, and then T.I. basically sabotages the whole thing. They do manage to do the job, and Chris Brown does manage to get away after he shoots policemen. But I think they want like a hotel, and basically like T.I. just kills a couple of people in the crew, and he sets up a few of them to get caught, and a few of them, one of them, they were in like a hotel room, yeah, and the police were like approaching the building, right? So they had a bit of time to try and get away, yeah, but instead they're like kind of like waiting for police to come to be outside the front door, and then they were like, "Oh, let's just go suicide by policeman." Innit?
Yeah.
So they just go out and start shooting, and obviously they die. And then I think then T.I. kills his ex-girlfriend, and then he kills the guy who's going out with her.
Okay.
So Mikey Leely dies as well. I think T.I.'s about to get away on a helicopter, and then I think Idris Elba shoots him. I think Idris Elba gets away. I can't remember. I think Idris Elba might die too. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I watched that ages ago. But I quite liked it. Chris didn't like it though. But yeah, it was decent. It was decent. I like this thing. Like I like stupid films like that. It's like things like bank jobs, but like stuff was going. Like you said, nothing went wrong. But stuff was going wrong in that film. And I like that, how they get out of the things that go wrong.
Exactly. Like, have you ever seen
even Baby Driver?
Yeah, exactly. And talking of Baby Driver, there's a trilogy, the Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End. Have you seen those?
I think I've seen Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, well, that's a pretty good trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, funny, World's End's pretty crap, but that just popped into my head. What was my Logan Lucky? Yeah, so I think the film has got pretty good critical reviews, and I'm pretty sure it's the only reason is because of the director. So Steven Soderbergh's the director. He went into retirement 4 years ago, and everyone's like, "Oh no," because he was a pretty critically well received director. He did the Ocean's trilogy, which trilogy, but not up there for me. And then did Magic Mike and some other films. So he's had quite a good rap with the critic, the critic side of his films. Well, they might not be particularly financially successful. So when he came out of retirement, everyone was like, "Oh my god, yeah, like this film's sick." I think if it was directed by anybody else, it would have maybe not got slated, but definitely wouldn't have been as well received as it was. I had a question in my head, which I thought about. This is kind of haphazard, this podcast, because it keeps popping into my mind. Oh yeah, so I was thinking, you mentioned Men in Black, and then I was thinking, I thought that the 21 Jump Street was a trilogy, but it's not. But they're supposedly, whether or not are or not, doing a third one, which is a crossover with Men in Black. So my question, which also pertains to X-Force, is if there's like one existing franchise which is aimed at a particular audience, so obviously 21 Jump Street is 15 rated, like lots of swear words, bloody violence and stuff. Men in Black is very much PG, and then obviously you've got Deadpool, which is 15, borderline 18, and I would assume the rest of the X-Men, obviously the rest of the X-Men is aimed at 12, that sort of age range. So if two things like that combine, where should it sit? So if you were to have the Men in Black crossover, if you were watching it, would you want it to be along the same lines of 21 Jump Street, or along the same lines of Men in Black, as to who it's aimed at?
I mean, being the age I am now, I probably lean more towards it being more adult sort of thing. But they're I don't know, because it would be the same thing kind of with like Deadpool and X-Men. Like they're two films, they're good / funny in different ways for different reasons. So I think if you go with 22 Jump Street and you go with Deadpool without like the crudeness and stuff like that, it's probably not going to be anywhere near as successful and near as funny. So then you'd think, okay, so we'll just make it a 15 or whatever. But then you kind of alienate a big chunk of your character audience by, especially in the case of Men in Black, which I imagine is probably seen by a lot of children and like families and stuff. You alienate quite a lot of your target audience. So then I don't really know. I don't think there's any way that you can mix the two and get the full both audiences in to watch.
The only way they could do it is if they had two different cuts of the film.
Yeah.
So like they had a 15 rated cut and they had a PG or 12 rated cut. But again, like that's extra effort, extra money, and it each version would probably make less than a lot less than what they would expect. And they say you don't want Deadpool to be in like a 12 rated film because he's the mark of the mouth, man. Like what they did with is it Wolverine or Origins Wolverine, where he just had no mouth because of they don't want him to swear.
Yeah.
So I don't think they should combine franchises with different age ratings. So I don't know if you ever saw The Expendables, another trilogy, by the way.
I think so.
I think it was the second or the third one. So the first one was a hard 15, or hard R as the Americans would say. Second one, I think they made it a 12. Either way, they like really toned down all the swearing because Chuck Norris was in it, and he basically said he wouldn't be in it if they were swearing. Like, he doesn't care about people's heads being chopped off and stuff, but didn't want anyone to say fuck. So that really jarred with me because you have expectations from the first one, and then the second one is that you're like, what? It's like watching a Tarantino film. Like, you watch Django, and then there's a sequel to Django, but it's a you, and you're like, what the hell? Why have you made this decision? Literally makes no sense. It's amazing how many trilogies we've thought of off the question, don't you think?
Yeah.
Just keep popping into my head. You mentioned from the archive. We haven't done one for a while, so I'm going to talk about a film that I went to see the other day called The Room. So I saw it at the Prince Charles Cinema, which they do lots of kind of old school films. And this film is considered one of the worst films ever. So I was like, cool, got to see this to see if it really is as bad as they say. Also, James Franco is doing a kind of spoof of it, or like a spoof making of, called The Disaster Artist with Seth Rogen and Dave Franco. So I thought, yeah, I want to watch that film. I'll see what the inspiration for it was. And it's this cult film whereby everyone in the cinema had already seen it, apart from me and the person I went with. And they were all like, before lines were said, they were shouting lines out. They were like, they kept like mocking the characters. So The Room is about this guy called Johnny who is having kind of troubles with his girlfriend or fiance. His fiance is cheating on him with his best mate, and that's pretty much the plot. But there are so many random subplots. Like, people just keep walking into their flat, and you don't know who they are. You don't know much about any of their backstory. Like, people just keep walking in, like, talking to them, and they're not even introduced. And then there's a subplot where his fiance's mum goes, "I've got breast cancer," and she's just like, "All right, yeah, but I don't love Johnny anymore." And you're just like, how are you just dismissing that? And then they don't reference it at all for the rest of the film. So the film was a mess. Like, the acting was dreadful. The script was dreadful. They kept repeating words, and they're trying to kind of generate these catchphrases for these characters, and it was awful. The kind of whole framing of each shot was dreadful. So there was shots where several shots where they're just throwing an American football, and sometimes they're wearing suits for no reason. Sometimes they're in a park, whatever. Like, they're just kind of arbitrary shots. But the way the camera's set up is, two of them would be in like the bottom right hand corner of the frame, and you wouldn't see the other characters, and then it would cut back, and it's not like a typical shot reverse shot where you see one person and you cut and you can tell it's the flip of the other shot, right? So this was all over the place. So, like, there'd be people in the bottom right hand corner, and then the next shot they'd be in the center, and you just the geography of the way the director was creating this space was all over the place.
Was it supposed to be crap?
I don't think so, no. But it's one of the director was pretty megalomaniac on the set, and basically he wouldn't listen to anybody. So I was in this screening of people. So there's this character, I think his name was Danny or something, and he would walk into the frame, their house, and would never shut the door. So everyone would be like, "Hi Danny, shut the fucking door." And I was like, I couldn't hear half the dialogue because people just kept shouting stuff over it. But it was funny, and I feel like if I had watched it on my own or in a cinema that, people actually respected the cinema, then I would have found it a lot worse. I guess it's one of those films where it was kind of win-win, because I expected it to be terrible. So if it was terrible, that's what I expected. If it was good, or better than I expected. But yeah, it was just all over the place. I was like, how can you actually make a film like this? I just think, like, we could make a better film than that right now. We should, but I feel like I had another point and I've just completely forgotten it.
You said something that reminded me of something I watched yesterday, though, about people like trying out in cinema.
Yeah.
So I watched a video of people. There's apparently this bar. I don't know where it is. Maybe I think it's somewhere in America. People just watch Game of Thrones. So like there's like dozens, maybe not dozens, but there's like a good probably like 10 TVs just dotted around the bar. People just watching Game of Thrones and like the volumes are like super loud. And I was watching the video because they showed the scene where spoiler if you know really talks about it, where Littlefinger dies, and so people were watching it and they were kind of like there were points that like Sansa was saying stuff and everyone was kind of like obviously like reacting going oh and stuff like that. And it was quite that to watch. It was quite funny, but there was those people going like oh shh, shh. And I was like you're watching Game of Thrones in a bar with probably a good 100 or more people and people are drinking.
Yeah.
You really expect people to be quiet. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And they were like people were like reacting to things, and even when Littlefinger started begging, people started laughing and stuff like that. And everyone was like, people were like, oh, shh. And I was like, why are you shushing? Like, these people are not going to be quiet. Like, you picked the wrong place to watch this episode if you're watching it for the first time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then when he sits front, everyone just I was watching it with earphones
Oh,
and
God.
people started to screaming, and I was literally like, I almost went deaf. It was ridiculous. It was funny though, but I was thinking, oh yeah, that'd be sick to watch Game of Thrones in a bar with people. But I was thinking, like, fuck that, because I hate watching. I think I hate watching TV shows or films with other people because people always want to talk to me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to watch this film.
Yeah. But I was not expecting, when I was watching The Room, I wasn't expecting like so much audience participation.
Yeah.
It did kind of add something to it, but I kind of just wanted to experience it.
I think that sometimes makes things better though, because I think there's certain TV shows and films that you watch that you just want to watch alone. So like Game of Thrones, or for me like Power, or stuff like that. But then, so for example, like I can't watch I can't watch Family Guy by myself because I just get bored.
Yeah.
If I'm watching Family Guy with like you or other people, I'll automatically find it funnier because I don't know why, just because there's someone else there to like laugh as well.
Yeah.
Just things like that. I think like even like trying to think even like In-Betweeners. I think maybe the second one. The second one was decent, but like I remember when I was watching it, I was like bursting out laughing because everyone else was laughing as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing with when you have a laughing track as well.
I hate
I know
laughing
you do, yeah,
tracks.
I know you do, but it makes me laugh as well having the laughing track.
No, because it's so artificial. But yeah, those sorts of things that you mentioned are like, they're pretty much background, aren't they? Like background sort of entertainment, because you don't have to really think much about them. Whereas, if you miss a plot point of Game of Thrones, you're fucked. You're like, how the hell did that happen? You mentioned Power, so I'm pretty sure that season 3 has ended. Season 4.
Yeah.
So what's happening with Ghost and the Mandem?
So, yeah, I can talk about that because Joe's not here. Joe's watching it.
So spoilers.
So yeah, spoilers incoming. So season 4, I think it's probably actually the worst season so far, but it's still been pretty good.
Okay.
But like certain things have been happening, certain characters have been making certain choices. I'm just a bit like, this is so uncharacteristic compared to the first 3 seasons. But I feel like the writers are making them make these choices just to kind of serve a purpose, so that the plot carries on.
Yeah.
So, Ghost, or James St. Patrick, is basically like the slickest guy in New York City, right? Like, he's so clever. No one, like, the reason why they call him Ghost is because nobody knows that he's a drug dealer. Like,
Okay.
He in the daytime, whatever, he runs a nightclub or a couple of nightclubs, and like no one can ever match him to any crime. So he gets falsely arrested at the end of season 3. So season 4 starts with him in prison, and he's in prison for I think 3 or 4 episodes or something. And whilst he's in prison, he kills a guard.
Okay.
And I was like, because like, so he was in the weights room, and the guard just cut, I think because he managed to pull some strings and because the guard was harassing him because he allegedly killed an FBI agent, even though we know he didn't, but they were saying that he killed an FBI agent, that's why he was in prison. So obviously, if you're a prison guard and you find out someone's killed the policeman or FBI, whatever, you're going to be like extra hard on them and stuff like that. So the guy was harassing him. So then the guy comes into the weights room, the guard tells everyone to leave, and then him and James start fighting, like fisting. And James like knocked him to the floor, yeah.
They start fisting. Deary me. I know there's a lot of sex in this, but I did not expect that. Wow. That escalated quickly.
You know what I mean? Well, we're taking that proportion. To be fair, there's not that many. I feel like there's only like 2 sex scenes in this season of Power, which is very little compared to maybe three, but it's very little compared to. Oh no, four. At least 4, maybe a bit more.
Anyway, so they're fisting.
So yeah, they're fisting. Yeah, they're fisting up, and then so like James like knocks her to the floor, yeah, and I feel like James of the past 3 or Ghost of the past 3 seasons would be like, okay, that's it, I'm out. Like, get out of the room, because room's not locked, you can just get out, yeah? But instead he takes a weight and bashes this guy's head in, like, repeatedly, bashes his head in and kills him.
Oh,
and
God.
He's got blood and all sorts all over his face. And then this other geezer comes in, this old guy, who's like a gangster, and who turned out to be, so Ghost and Tommy are like 2 best mates.
Yeah.
And they're like running things together. So this old guy is Tommy's dad. Okay. But at the time, no one knew that, even though we all kind of knew because they made it really obvious that he was Tommy's dad.
Okay.
So that guy was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll clean it up for you. We'll get this sorted." Blah blah blah. So that was his way of like, because he wanted to talk to Tommy, but Tommy didn't know. Obviously, Tommy didn't know he was his dad, so he thought, "Why is this random guy want to talk to me? I'm not going to talk to you." So he used him cleaning up the mess of the murder as a blackmailing tool to be like, get Tommy to come talk to me.
Why don't you just tell Tommy he was his dad?
I don't know. So this is what I'm saying. So it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So I've got something else to talk about as well after this, actually, to do with Power. It's about 50 Cent, but I'll say that in a minute. So yeah, that happened. I was just like, this is something out of character for you, but I mean, in the end, it wasn't too consequential to the rest of the story. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll move on.
So there's no CCTV.
It broke. So there was a camera, but the guy was like, it was broken. This is why I'm going to fuck you up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that happens. And then loads of stuff happens. Ghost gets out of prison, gets exonerated, whatever. And he had to put loads of money. He's not really liquid in terms of like money at the minute. So because he had to put loads of it up for his trial and paying lawyers and bail and whatever. So he kind of needed a loan or something. He needed to get money from somewhere so that he could just like pay for general stuff. So his children could go to school and stuff like that because they go to a private school. And this guy, you know who the guy who played the captain of the Titanic?
Yes.
So
Billy Zane.
Oh no, never mind then.
No,
in the choir. The guy was in the choir with the
No, Billy Zane's not the captain of the Titanic.
So the guy plays the captain. Oh, Billy Zane's the adversary, isn't it? Yeah. So what's his name? Victor Garber. Victor Garber plays a guy called Stern, who we know from the past seasons is a shady character. Yeah.
Right.
Basically, everything he's done is to try and swindle Ghost out of money, or so do something to benefit him but not benefit Ghost. Right.
And Ghost knows this.
And his wife Tasha knows this as well. So he goes to Tasha and is like, "Oh, I can give you a loan, but you've got to do blah 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 for me." And then so like he says this on the day that Ghost is getting out of prison. So he's getting out like maybe 3 or 4 hours. But then Tasha's like, "Oh, we need the money now, so I'm just going to call him." And then she gets the money from him, a loan from him, on the condition that James has to sign a contract so that he can get a business loan to do something like to build buildings or some sort of thing in the community. And Stone gets money off the back of it. Victor Garber's character gets money off the back of it somehow.
Okay.
Something or other. Yeah, to get him money, basically. So, and then Ghost is like angry, obviously angry with Tasha, like, why did you agree to this? Because obviously he's not looking out for us. So why would you want to do this? She's like, "Oh, you weren't here. I had to make a decision by myself." And I was like, I was screaming on TV like, he's getting out in 4 hours. You can just wait the 4 hours till you can talk about it. And then if you decide you need a loan, get a loan from him or whatever. Don't just make the decision by yourself. And then she was like, "Oh yeah, you'll handle it because you're Ghost." And I was just like, what kind of excuse is that? That was stupid because Tasha's not dumb, so she wouldn't do that.
Okay.
That was the other thing that I think the writing was stupid because she just wouldn't. That was so dumb that she just wouldn't do that. Then there was some other convoluted story about so like Ghost is out of the drug business now, so now Tommy's running everything. He's fucked up in the head, and he's a proper erratic. So he goes to Chicago. They do a whole episode of him going to Chicago to meet up with their new supplier, so that they could do this whole spiel about Tommy not being trustworthy, and then they knock him out and lock him in the boot. They're about to kill him and bury him, and then they get this other guy, and he's like, "No, he betrayed you, not me." And they kill that guy and let Tommy go, just so that he could be driving back from Chicago back to New York, and he passes somewhere on the way. I can't remember where, but it's where his ex-girlfriend used to live. He killed his ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
So he passes that, sees her uncle. Well, I'm assuming this is her uncle, because otherwise this is really weird. Sees her uncle, and her uncle used to molest her when she was young. Just so he can come back, see the uncle, and kill him, and then leave his prints all over the house. Like, because the guy, the uncle, is a real estate guy, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of coming to check out his house because I want to buy it, sort of thing. And he's like touching everything and touching the lights, and I was just like, "What are you doing?" And she gets a bat out, and from like the corner of the room, conveniently, smashes this guy's head in and kills him. I was like, "Okay." Like, they didn't show him writing down prints or anything. I'm pretty sure they just had the dead body lying in the middle of the room. So whatever. That was dumb. That was completely like there was no purpose for it whatsoever.
Right.
So whatever. So sorry, this is very long-winded, but now we're coming towards the end.
Makes more sense than the Riverdale chat.
I'll come back soon. But they extended it to 20 episodes, so I might not watch it. That's too long, man. But back to Power. So now we're coming towards the end of the series, and one of Ghost got 3 children. Two twins, Tariq and Raina, and a little girl who's not really in it, to be honest. And Tariq's kind of like he's like a moody teenager. Like, he's like, oh, all my parents do is lie to me. So now he's going off the rails. He's a little bitch, basically.
Okay.
It's really frustrating. And this is why children should beat their children, their kids. Anyway, children should beat their children. This is why parents should discipline their children better. Anyway, so like, he gets involved with some madness, basically, and he inadvertently gets a woman killed.
Okay.
And so the person behind it is looking for him, presumably to kill him, and he kind of like knows that.
Yeah.
So he goes to this. He's like, he's basically thinking, okay, I need to get away. So he's about to transfer schools to go to somewhere in Connecticut or something like that, to go to a different private school. And whilst he's there, he gets tricked, basically, and the guy, he thinks he's texting his girlfriend, but he's actually, his girlfriend's cousin is the guy who he's trying to get away from.
Okay.
So he says to the girl, like, oh yeah, tell him to be here, and then obviously I'm going to come meet him and deal with him, sort of thing. So then he goes to the place and whatever. He sees the guy who's trying to kill him, called Ray. His name's Ray, and
so good they named him twice.
And he runs away, hides behind the corner. His sister Raina, who, this whole series, I feel bad because the whole series she's only been trying to protect him. She's kind of been like, "What's wrong? Like, talk to me. You can talk to me," sort of thing like that. And he's basically like rejected her. There was this really funny bit where, sorry, I'm going off a complete tangent, but where she was basically like, "You can talk to me. What's wrong?" He was basically like, "Fuck off, leave me alone." And then he like runs into the lift, and as the lift doors are closed, he just puts the steam in the face. The lift closes and goes out. It was hilarious, but yeah, that aside. So then she kind of confronts this guy who's trying to kill him, because Tariq's hiding at this point. And she's so dumb. She says to the guy, because she knows at this point kind of that her dad's like a serious guy.
Right.
Like, she knows that Ghost is like a...
Okay.
So she was like, she kind of on the thing like, you don't know who you're messing with, my dad will kill you. She said to the guy, my dad will kill you. At which point the guy was just like, alright then, bang, shot her, killed her.
Oh shit, okay.
So Tariq comes out and he's like sort of thing, because he's shocked because his sister just died. So that was episode 9, yeah?
How many episodes?
10 episodes.
Okay.
So that was... So the 10 episode thing is something I'm going to come on to in a minute.
Okay.
So episode 10, so we're wrapping up. Episode 10, they kind of just like gloss over the fact that she's dead. Like, no one's really mourning. Like, no one's really... Like, it's only the day after, but like, there's not really any tears. No one's really sad. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, all the people around the house for to comfort them and that. They're hell bent on finding this guy who killed him.
Yeah.
Killed her, sorry. And they do. Eventually they find him. They go through a whole load of mess, and Tariq finds him, and he shoots him. Tariq kills the guy, and basically the woman that put Ghost in prison in the first place, which is Angela, which is his ex-lover, so he cheated on her.
Yeah,
he cheated on his wife with her. She basically knows that these lot have gone to kill because the guy was a policeman. Ray, he was a policeman.
Okay.
He was undercover, but he was dirty as well.
Yeah.
So she told Tasha where the guy was, and then she finds the guy dead, like 2-3 hours later.
Okay.
So she basically, like season 5, I imagine it's just gonna be her trying to prove that one of them killed the guy, and basically Tariq shot the guy, but it was with Tasha's gun. So now Tasha's
his mum.
His mum, yeah.
Yeah.
So now she's taking the rap, basically. She's gone to her lawyer, who she's also fucking. And she was basically like, hypothetically, what would happen if I shot da-da-da-da-da? And he's like, and the lawyer's like, he's such a wet wipe, man. It's so jarring. It's like, you know, the ones I was like, I can't believe you're having sex with him. Like, for God's sake.
Yeah.
He's a proper wet wipe. He's like, I can even be your lover. I can be your lawyer. And she was like, well, at least you can be my lawyer. So yeah. And then she's basically like taking the whole rap for Tariq. So I imagine season 5 is going to be about them trying to cover up for Tariq, and Tariq dealing with the fact that he's killed someone.
Okay.
And inadvertently killed a woman, which I'm pretty sure he's probably just going to gloss over. Even he got an innocent woman killed.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the end of the series. So the series was decent, but it wasn't.
What was your issue with 50 Cent?
Right. So the 10-episode thing. So I feel like the season was a bit rushed, and 50 Cent wanted the show's produced by Starz. 50 Cent wanted Starz to extend it to 13 episodes because he felt like the story wasn't going to be able to be told properly in 10 episodes, which I think was actually kind of true, because there were sort of episodes where like nothing was really happening, and other episodes where loads of stuff was just happening, and it was all a bit confusing. So he was having like a massive row. There was talk he was going to go to BET and get the show done from BET, and they were going to give him 13 episodes. But I think they've settled now. Basically, he's like did like a whole Instagram post basically saying like, yeah, Starz have given me a fuckload of money, so we're going to keep it on Starz. And I think it's going to be 12 episodes.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I hope it is 12 because they kind of need to be able to make the story a bit more well-rounded.
Yeah.
Because it kind of goes really fast in some places, really slow in some places, and they need to make these characters act how they would actually act, because so many people were acting completely out of character, and it was just so stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's decent.
I feel like we've talked about this before, but I feel like a series should have as many episodes as it needs.
Yeah.
Like when you get like you said, Riverdale, they extended it to 20. If the producers have said, look, we've got a lot of stuff to cover here, we need 20 episodes, fair enough. But if it's a network, like, we can get, I don't know how many episodes it was before, but 7 extra episodes worth of money, like, let's make it 20, then the writers inevitably are going to think, oh my God, like, we've got 20 episodes, 20 hours or, to fill. And then you get, like, the odd, sometimes some series there are like 2 or 3 filler episodes, and you think, you could have saved yourself 3 hours worth of stuff. And I know sometimes it's due to budget. I know that was the case with Breaking Bad, one of them. I think it's called like Ozymandias or something. But yeah, you're just like, what's the point? If it's wrapped up in 3 episodes, cool. If it takes 9, whatever, it doesn't have to be a nice number.
Arrow and Flash have bare filler episodes, and it's so jarring. Because you can't just watch it like this episode is completely inconsequential to the rest of the story. So we just get to the point.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a complete waste of time. And I'm pretty sure I think the guy who show runs Arrow and Flash, I think his name's Mark Guggenheim, I think. But don't quote me on that, I'm not sure. He was basically like, they did an interview and they asked him like, do you prefer shorter seasons? Do you prefer like 22 episode seasons? Straight away he was like, yeah, short seasons. Because it makes it so much easier for us to write.
Yeah.
And I sympathise with that.
It's such an American thing to have like 20 odd episodes, doesn't it?
It's like when you watch something like Misfits, like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
That in between is 6 episodes.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
Like, whereas here it's like, what, 20?
That fucking clock.
House passed already? Well.
I know, man. I was going to ask you actually, so has the showrunner on Power changed between series 3 and 4?
Oh, I don't know actually. I should check that actually. I reckon they probably have, to be honest.
Because
it would make sense.
Yeah.
It would make sense. Well, I don't know. I'll check. But I should check that now actually. Whilst you carry on talking.
Oh shit! I've got something to talk about. Have I? Yeah. Back to film news. I think DC have said, or at least there's rumours that DC have said that they want to make like 3 Joker-based films. So there's.
I heard a rumour that DiCaprio was going to be.
Yeah, that's what I heard, that rumour as well. So you got Joker will be apparently in Suicide Squad 2. Then there was already plans to do a Gotham City Sirens, which is based on the female kind of villains like Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn. But then they might change that to a Joker like and Harley Quinn movie, and then they want to do another kind of origin story of the Joker, and then that's where it would be someone other than Jared Leto.
Yeah.
And then apparently Leto has come out and said that he's pretty confused about this, like why they need like more than one Joker in the same extended universe. Just see, like, what do you think about that? Like, because I know you don't particularly like Jared Leto as the Joker. Is that right?
I thought it was okay. I think it's Chris who didn't like him.
Okay.
I think he's alright.
But why do you need 3?
You really don't.
Yeah, you
don't. That's the.
Because I think fair enough. Suicide Squad 2, because his role was really undeveloped in Suicide Squad 1. I was sort of thinking that Gotham City Sirens would be a fairly good, concept. Like the female kind of anti-heroes, and obviously like Harley Quinn was one of the best things about Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
But then to make it a her and the Joker thing, I feel like they're already building that throughout the narrative of the Suicide Squad films, so just continue that. And then the main thing is, do we actually want a Joker origin story? Because I thought the whole point of the Joker is that he's mysterious.
Yeah.
Like, obviously he was Robin beforehand in some versions, but
even in the Killing Joke, they kind of give him a
I didn't like that
background story. I didn't like that either. So I much prefer they just keep it ambiguous.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be this nutter, and no one, not even Batman, who's like the best detective, knows who he is. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like another Batman Joker film would be good, but to announce 3 of them, or I don't think they've technically been announced, but just like do one at a time, please. Just make one of them good, because Suicide Squad was panned, even though it made a lot of money. The DC haven't had the best, start to their extended universe. Obviously, Wonder Woman was well received, but the rest of them weren't. You just think you're trying to do too much. Like, it's kind of if they announced Captain America 4, but also at the same time we're going to do whoever the new Captain America will be. You'd be like, what's the point?
We're trying to run before we can walk.
Yeah. That's, again, it all comes back to the fact that they've got so much catching up to do with Marvel. But
I think you just take your time. Like, I'm sure people will wait for, as long as the film is good, people will wait, rather than you thinking like, okay, we're going to bang out this, and we're going to bang out Justice League 2, and then we're going to bring out Flash, and then we're going to bring out Aquaman, and then you're just focusing on like 5-6 films at a time, and it just like dilutes the quality of all the films, rather than, okay, we're going to take this slow, bring out one, and then maybe in a year and a half or 2 years later we'll bring out the next one, and so on and so forth. Like, because you don't have to bring them out at the same rate that Marvel bring them out. No. You just got to bring them out at a pace that you feel comfortable with. I'm sure a lot of people would, to be honest, probably be thankful that they're coming out if they came out a bit slower, because like all these films come at the same time, it's just kind of long.
Yeah, I think Marvel, obviously, they've got Kevin Feige, who's just like orchestrating everything, and they've got so many different directors for each film. Whereas I don't know if there's one producer over all the DCEU, but it feels like Zack Snyder has the most influence, and he just wants to direct all of them. You haven't got, if they delegated it to other directors, then this director takes on the Batman franchise, this director takes on Wonder Woman, this director takes on Flash, whatever. Like, then it would make, they probably could produce several films at a time, but they keep it. All these films seem to be in development hell. Like, Flash has lost its director, Justice League had to go through a few reshoots with a circumstance because of a different director. Just thinking, absolute mess. They keep changing the schedule. No one really knows what the next film coming out will be. Like, is there even going to be a solo Batman film?
Apparently Ben Affleck wants to even leave the franchise, so who knows?
Anyway, we'll see. Justice League comes out in November, right?
Yeah, man. I think it'll be good, by the way. I know you don't. Out of curiosity, are you looking forward to the Black Panther film?
I am.
Okay.
I think it will be refreshing. I think it's really interesting to see them in another kind of environment. I know they've been to like Lagos for a bit in Captain America Civil War and Wakanda, wherever that is, but to actually see them on the African continent and just visually and iconography wise, it's just so different. And I think it's really interesting that that's my stomach, I don't know if you can hear that. That isn't Wakanda supposed to be the most technologically advanced nation? So I think that's really interesting.
So it's funny because I
was just say, like, it's refreshing that they're pumping a lot of money into this very much African American based superhero,
Yeah.
and it's taken too long, but you're just glad that they're getting so much exposure. Really good cast as well.
Yeah,
Chadwick Boseman,
Michael B. Jordan,
Nyong'o, and obviously you've got Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis. Yeah, looks good.
So like, it was funny because you were saying about the country being the most technologically advanced, and me and Ollie watched the trailer like we were in the cinema not too long ago, and he asked me like, "Oh, is it set in the future then?"
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he didn't know. Like, he's like, "Oh, it must be set in the future," and I was like, "No, it's just technologically advanced." I was like, "Oh, we're supposed to be like in Africa," and I was like, "Yeah, but like only I think the way it works is supposed to be like, so people coming from the outside looking in, you're going to see a country that just looks like an average African country. Once you actually go into the country, it's actually like properly like technologically advanced, like year 3000 sort of stuff."
And I'm looking forward to it again because I think like along with Spider-Man, hopefully Black Panther will be one of the future kind of mainstays of the MCU, and he is grounded in a kind of realistic setting, and also the fact that it just looks cool.
Yeah.
Like it just looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it'll be a good action film. Yeah, I think it'll be really good. When's it coming out? Is it this year?
I think it's February.
Okay, that's all right then. Yeah, I saw a trailer for a film coming out like next March or something, like longer. I was like, that is well over 6 months. That is too early. I was thinking, I don't want to be thinking about 2018 already. It's ridiculous. Is there anything coming out soon that we're actually looking forward to? Because I feel like this summer was a bit meh.
Soon. Well, I mean, Thor's coming out at the end of October.
True. Yeah, I look forward to that. Kingsman?
Oh yeah, Kingsman should be out.
My birthday's on.
Yeah.
I think
next week or so, 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be as good as the first one.
Nah, I don't think so. But yeah, I feel like this summer was a bit like I heard things that it was kind of one of the worst box offices for I think it was America. But I don't know if that's down to the fact that there weren't many huge films. Like normally, I swear, when we were like teenagers, it weren't that long ago to be honest. All of the big films like your Fast and Furiouses, your Marvel films, your DC films, they would all try and come out in August, right? And it'd be like, okay, once you hit June, all the big films are going to come out. But now it's like you had Deadpool in like February, Fast 8.
Deadpool this year?
No, I think it was last year.
Oh, yeah.
But like Fast 8, I'm pretty sure it was like April.
Yeah, it was really early.
And you just think like, is that meaning that the summer box office is, not doomed, but it's going to inevitably be less. You get things like Christmas seems to be a big one now of Star Wars, or is it due to the films, the quality of films that came out, that maybe they just weren't that good this year, or maybe they're spreading them out more across the year, or is it down to streaming? Because obviously Netflix is becoming a huge player. I think they're in a lot of debt, but they're pumping money. Directors like Scorsese are going over there. Adam Wingard with Death Note, and obviously people are now like, oh, big blockbusters coming out in there. So what do you think personally is the cause of?
I just feel like the films that have been coming out this year just haven't been that good.
Okay.
They've been alright, but there's not been. I'm trying to think. There's not been many films in this the summer period, or maybe from after the Oscar period basically onwards, where I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is like one of the best films of the year, like blockbuster, blah blah blah. And to be honest, I haven't really seen any. I'm not like a Netflix I'm not on it every day, but I haven't really seen any big films come out on Netflix. But obviously, Death Note. Those people talking about Death Note, which is fair enough. But apart from that, I haven't really seen any.
But that's because
that people are talking about.
But if you're not on Netflix a lot, then you wouldn't see the promotion, because obviously Netflix doesn't really promote much of its content outside of Netflix or the internet. But yeah, I guess I think this year probably it was a fact of less quality films. But do you think streaming is a threat to cinema?
I mean, maybe, but not. Like the biggest films are always going to come out on the big screens. I think you're going to have like a Wind River, like films that are pretty good, but not like I don't think you're ever gonna get like a Transformers coming out straight to.
Yeah.
You obviously Transformers shit. But you're never gonna get that coming out like straight onto Netflix, something like that. Maybe in the future, but I can't see it happening for a good while. But then I don't really want it to happen because then they probably raise the price of my Netflix subscription.
I was actually going to say, like, I can't see things like that happening because even though they spend like, I think Death Note cost in the region of like 30 odd million, which I guess for Netflix is quite a lot. But yeah, there's no way they're going to be able to afford £250 million budgets unless they're, because they've got a lot of subscribers, but if, say, for example, they have 100 million subscribers and 100 million people are paying $7 a month or £7 a month, then that's $700 million a month. But they spend about $6 billion a year on content. You think, and they've got to spread that across a lot of TV, promotion, films. And you think, there's no way they can do that unless they're raising the price. And then I reckon if Netflix got to more than £12 a month, you'd think, because then you get into, you might as well buy an unlimited card at a cinema, which obviously it's not the comfort of your own home, but there isn't really a substitute for the big screen experience. Our TV isn't 160 inches, and I don't have surround sound. And I don't know. That's a deep point.
Deep. TV, you don't have surround sound. It's a deep point.
First world problems. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap up for today? Nah. All right. Well, thank you for listening to episode 27. If you want to get in contact with us and tell us if there's any trilogies we've missed, good or bad, you can tweet us at YC Podcast 17. We're on Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, and iTunes under Your Average Critics. iTunes and SoundCloud is where you can also leave us a 5-star review and you can share our content. Also, let us know what you think the future of kind of cinema is, or the future of films. Is it going to be streaming based? Is it going to be mostly cinema based? Do get in contact. We'd love to hear from you, and see you next week.
Peace.